Mario Kart World has had some controversial updates, to say the least, thanks to their treatment of free-lap tracks. Previously, at launch, you could press random and you would be guaranteed to get a free-lap track. That was great because there's always an option for a free-lap track. Yes, we didn't know which one, but there was at least a way to consistently play free-lap tracks. After 2 updates which made random pick intermissions, we have to find out how common free-lap tracks are. So, what we'll be tracking in today's video is how many free-lap track options there are, how many times 2 free-lap tracks shows up, and how many times intermissions are picked, how many times free-lap tracks are picked, how many times random is picked, and if random is picked, is it a free-lap track or is an intermission selected? We are also including cases where free-lap tracks as options, but intermission was picked anyway. Before going through the results, I do want to say that some results will be potentially inaccurate, just because of the taste of the people in the lobby, or just me not paying full attention, like me checking my phone or something. Everyone's tastes are completely different and between lobbies, and because of that, there is just no way to control the results or anything like that. It's literally impossible, probably, to get the same results that I did. Alright, let's go through the results. Again, we have our little disclaimer, all results potentially inaccurate, thanks to me not paying attention. So you see, I was at turn 100, I was counting them, because I know I'd miscount. So, free-lap track options appeared 44 times. Now, a number that I've heard is about in the 30s. This is actually a little higher. So, maybe, for most people it might be a little bit lower. Maybe I just got lucky. Again, it's so, random. It really is. But what happened sometimes was there were 6 times where 2 free lap tracks showed up. Now, it says here that this number here is included in this number. So it's not like half the time we had 2 free lap tracks, but it was pretty close to half the time that we would at least have an option for a free lap track, which is an improvement over the previous update where it was like once every 4 rounds if you're lucky. So the total amount of intermissions, including random, was 60. So the total amount of free lap tracks picked was 40, which makes sense, I'd say. But what's interesting is that random was only picked 16 times, which is kind of crazy. Random does not get picked very often. Another thing I want to mention is that, yes, a previous update did make it so that random can pick intermissions, but that didn't happen all too often. It's much more likely to pick a free lap track. But an interesting bit of data was that a random free lap track, but random free lap track, but the track pick was already an option. So basically, a free lap track shows up, but a random gets selected. But that random that got selected turned out to be a free lap track that was already an option. This only happened once. Of course, I started tracking this at weird times, so these are definitely potentially accurate, but this, to my remembrance, this only happened once. But the random free lap tracks, but the intermission pick was already an option, so there was intermissions to choose, random was picked, and intermission that was already there decided to show up. That happened 4 times. I think the reason for that is when random picks an intermission, it's going to be a track that was nearby the track that we were starting at. Because, well, intermissions, they don't go all across the entire world, do they? It's always tracks that are adjacent, and the random selection that you get picks intermissions that are also adjacent to the track that you are already on. So, this number is going to be higher than this number. Also, I was also tracking the amount of times that 3-lap track was picked, but an intermission happened to be picked anyway. This happened 12 times, which is quite disappointing. So, yeah, those are the results. Thanks for watching. I know, pretty short video, but, yeah, I thought it would be, cool to try and see how much of an effect the updates have had. Of course, I do think that the best way of doing things, and I do think that random should be able to pick intermissions, because it's called random. But I do think there should always be an option for, at least, there should always be one 3-lap track that is selectable. It's fine if an intermission ends up getting selected, but there should always be a guarantee that a 3-lap track will be there. Whether or not that's picked, that's fine, but there always needs to be that option. So, I'll leave with that, and I'll see you guys later.